Hey y'all, I'm Carrie.
Hey y'all, I'm Mandy.
And this is Monstrous. This episode contains topics and language that may not be suitable for all listeners and may be triggering for some. Listener discretion is advised. All right, we are back after the 4th and our week off. I'm glad we took the week off. I was so tired all week.
I bet.
It was so hot at work. Like, what day was it? I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. It was like 112 degrees in there.
Yeah, that's what you told me. That's insane.
Yeah. The coolest it was all week was yesterday, and that's because we got that really, we got that big thunderstorm, and it was 97 degrees. Not yesterday, I meant Friday. Hot as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so stuffy. Like, felt like you were going to suffocate.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was awful. So I was so tired all week long.
I bet.
All right, so hopefully everyone had a safe and good 4th. We had a good day. I think the guys had more fun than anybody else.
I think the guys had more fun than the kids did.
I know.
It was horrible.
My husband didn't try to blow my head off with a firework this year, so that's a plus.
I know. He didn't keep the tradition up.
God, that was awful.
Yeah, that was
worst thing ever.
Mm-hmm. It was crazy.
It was funny, though. I still have that video, too.
Do you?
Yeah. I'll have to find it, try to send it to you, because I still have it. Anyway, so we're back. Our case today is a heavy hitter. So I'm not going to give any updates on this episode because it's already going to be long. It's going to be a 2-parter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to go through those updates that I mentioned on the last episode. I think we might maybe just do like its own little separate thing, maybe sometime this week or next. Just because this week and next week are
some rough ones.
It's a heavy case. There's a lot of new stuff that has come out over the last decade in this one. There's a lot of theories, some suspects. So part 1 and part 2 are they're going to be decent in length.
Okay.
So in part 1, we're going to talk about the victim, the crime scene, the crime itself, and the autopsy. Then in part 2, we'll go over some of the suspects, theories, stuff like that. Before we get into it, to be clear, we do not know who the killer in this case is. Okay. It is an unsolved case. Outside of the known facts, everything is theory, speculation, and opinions. I'll make that clear now. Everyone has their own opinions in this case, including each of us, to ensure that we do not get sued at the end of this. We're not going to share our personal opinions on the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. Normally we do, especially in unsolved cases. We think, this is what happened. We're not going to do that in this one. But we can give our opinions on the theories that are out there, the ones that we think are just too outlandish, because there are a few. But I don't think we should say this is who I think did it.
Okay.
I really don't want to get sued. So
yeah, not today.
So in this episode, next episode, you're going to get the known facts, suspects, theories. That's it. You'll see why in just a minute, why we're not going to do that. And I think once I tell you what case it is, everyone will understand why. Hopefully one day we'll have someone's DNA to compare and we'll get confirmation on whose belief is correct. But today is not that day. So now that we're done with that, and that's been cleared up, I've always said I was not going to do this case. It is one of several that has been covered by books, movies, podcasts, TV shows, all the sorts. It's one of the many that has been covered. But we want it solved. It is more likely to be solved today than it has in the past. And it's one that you want to cover, so I'm doing it.
Which one is it?
This is the one I've told you about over the few weeks that I would not tell you which one it was.
Right.
So, are you ready to know which case I've been teasing you about?
Yeah.
Today, we are doing a deep dive into the JonBenet Ramsey case.
Holy shit, you're going to do it. I'm
Yes.
shocked. So shocked.
I know. I swore I wasn't going to do it, but you want to do it. So we're doing it.
Yeah, we definitely need to keep our opinions to ourselves on this one.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So JonBenet Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6th of 1990. She was born in Boulder, Colorado. Her parents were John Bennett and Patricia Patsy Ramsey. So we're going to call Patricia Patsy. That's what she went by. The couple had 2 children, Burke Ramsey, who was 9 years old at the time of the case, and then JonBenet, who was 6 years old. Her father, John, was the president of Access Graphics, which was a computer company until it was bought out in 1999 when it became GE Access. Patricia, most commonly known as Patsy, as I said, was a stay-at-home mom, and she was a former beauty queen. So the family was pretty well off. They had a beautiful Tudor-style home. This style home is a home that was inspired by the late medieval to the early Renaissance English style. So it's just very large, old looking house. Let me see. The Ramsey home, according to one of their former housekeepers, was like a maze. It had like a labyrinth type basement. It could be very confusing to get around if you didn't know the layout of the house. Patsy was John's second wife, and he had 3 older children with his first wife, a son and 2 daughters. And sadly, JonBenet was not the only child that John would lose in his lifetime. His oldest daughter, Elizabeth, had been killed in a car crash when she was 22 in 1992. So 4 years before JonBenet was murdered. Like I said, Patsy was a former beauty queen. She had held the title of Miss West Virginia in 1977 and then went on to compete in Miss America, but she did not place. Her pride in being a pageant queen was something that she had passed on to her daughter, JonBenet. JonBenet began entering into pageants at a very young age, and she would win several crowns by the time she was 6 years old. These included Little Miss Colorado, Little Miss Charlevoix, I think is how you say that, Colorado State All-Star Kids Cover Girl, America's Royal Miss, and National Tiny Miss Beauty. There were others that she had won. Those are just the ones that I could find that are listed. She had tons of trophies and crowns. She had so many that they were placed in like display cases. Like, how like a lot of people will put like their porcelain doll in those. That's how many crowns and trophies she had.
Wow.
Yeah, which JonBenet was a beautiful little girl. But this beauty was intensified by tons of makeup. She had high dollar costume dresses and costumes. She had her hair lightened with bleach, and she even had a flipper. Do you know what a flipper is? Okay, most people don't. So a flipper it's almost like a retainer, but it looks like teeth. It's not clear.
Oh, okay.
A lot of beauty queens and pageant contestants use them, and they're used in child ones to cover those child teeth imperfections like missing teeth, stained teeth, stuff like that. And they are expensive, especially because as they get older, you have to buy a new one.
Right.
They are not cheap. So now it's widely believed that pageants were all that JonBenet did. It's all her life was about. But according to one of her uncles, that's not true. He said pageants were a very small part of her life, and that 99% of the time she did what any typical 6-year-old would do. So JonBenet was described as a loving, spunky, and very kind child. She loved fruit roll-ups and anything with sprinkles. It was also said that she would give presents to Santa to thank him for her gifts that he had brought to her. Right? Her teachers and friends from school said that she was very sweet and very intelligent. Neighbors said that she was helpful and just all around adorable. Everyone that knew JonBenet said that she was, quote, a sweet little light to have around.
It's so sad.
I know. So, on December 25th of 1996, the Ramseys went to a Christmas party at the White's family home, and they were close family friends. The Whites were Fleet and Priscilla White. Here, they said JonBenet did what kids do at parties. She danced, ate food, opened presents, just had fun. Then, on the way home, she had fell asleep in the car. Once home, John did as every parent does at some point, and he carried JonBenet into the house and put her to bed. She went to sleep wearing white long johns and a long white t-shirt that had a silver sequence star on the front of it. Now, in the early morning hours of December 26th, Patsy woke up somewhere around 5 o'clock, give or take a little bit. She went downstairs and found a 2.5-page handwritten ransom note on a suitcase at the bottom of the staircase. 2.5 pages. Yeah. Yeah. So the note appeared to be from a kidnapper. This was when she ran upstairs and found that JonBenet was not in her bed, and she says she then woke John up. She, of course, showed him the ransom note, which said, quote, it's going to take a minute because I got the whole ransom note. This note is ridiculous. It is so long. And, like, it's just all over the place. Okay, you can tell me. We'll talk about it after. Quote, Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We respect your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed. And if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills. Make sure that you bring an adequate size attaché to the bank. When you get home, you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be rested. We will monitor you getting the money early. We might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money and hence an earlier pickup of your daughter. Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You'll be denied her remains for proper burial. The two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise do not provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police, FBI, etc., will result in your daughter being beheaded. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if any are found, she dies. You can try to deceive us, but be warned that we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions, and you stand a 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It's up to you now, John. Victory. SBTC. End quote.
What the hell?
Yeah. Super long. Weird as fuck.
That is weird.
Yeah. But it's not the only weird part. So the first thing is the amount. So they asked for $118,000. I feel like that's a pretty small amount for the life of a child.
Mm-hmm.
Then they put that he has a 99% chance of getting her killed if he doesn't follow directions. Like, that's weird. You go from saying, if you listen to us, you'll get her back, then to saying you only have a 1% chance of getting her back. Which is it, my guy?
Right.
It's weird. Then it's been pointed out by many people that the letter starts out with Mr. Ramsey, but then follows up with calling him John later. So now we're on a first name basis, apparently. Then why wouldn't you write the note to both parents? Why just John?
Right.
It's super weird. There was also a potential draft of the note that was found on Patsy's notepad. It was written in pen and sitting on the counter. And this looked as though they had begun to write the letter to both John and Patsy because it said Mr. and Mrs. But it looked like they wrote the R and then stopped and like redid it.
That's weird.
Right. So I don't know. Apparently, so whoever did this, okay, they did not bring the note already written. They didn't bring a pen or a piece of paper. They found everything inside the house. Yeah, makes no sense. If you're going to kidnap a child, wouldn't you bring everything that you need?
You would think so, to get in and get out.
Right. This is just one of the many pieces of this case that there is no explanation for. Yeah.
Weird.
Yep. So another piece that has had people thinking fully that it has to be someone that knew the family is because John had received a Christmas bonus that year in the exact amount of $118,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah. There was a bank statement sitting on the counter which showed that amount being deposited into their account. So it's possible that the kidnapper just was like, let me just put this much because this much is in their bank.
It's okay. TJ said, what are you doing? He said, oh shit.
That's okay. Mike and the kids do it all the time.
Right?
So the whole thing is just fucking weird, okay? The whole note, weird as fuck, but the weirdest part, okay, I told you, it's 2.5 pages.
Mm-hmm.
It was determined that whoever wrote this note took them 21 minutes to write it.
How would they know that?
I'm assuming that maybe they read it and timed it, or maybe rewrote it and timed it.
Oh.
Yeah, I could not find anywhere like says that how they know that, but that's what it says. It's 21 minutes long. Yeah, that's a long ass note.
Yeah, just to be sitting in somebody else's house.
Right, and it being handwritten makes it even more like, why?
Right, that is weird.
About the note, the former Boulder, Colorado police chief Mark Becker said in 2015, quote, the FBI told us they'd never seen a 2.5-page ransom note. No note has ever been written at the scene and then left at the scene with the dead victim at the scene other than this case. And then wouldn't you take her out of the house if you're kidnapping her and wanting money in return?
That's what you'd think.
Yeah. Then, the police chief said the FBI had never seen anything like it. She's dead. Why are you writing a ransom note? The whole thing is just weird, makes no sense. Okay. Like, I don't know. Then the kidnappers never called at any point, like the note said they would. Yeah.
Yeah, that is weird.
Right. At the very least, wouldn't you pretend that she was still alive?
Right, to get your money?
Yeah. The whole thing, like, this isn't the only thing in the case that is not unexplained. There are so many pieces in this case that just does not make sense. There's no explanation. It's like a giant jigsaw puzzle and the pieces don't fit together.
That's why.
Yeah. Okay. So handwriting experts believe that the note writer intended to disguise their actual handwriting because it did not look as though it was written naturally. I'm not sure how they can tell that, though.
Mm-hmm.
A Vanity Fair article from 1997 said that one of the investigators that was working closely on the case has said that they had analyzed the handwriting against 74 different samples, and that Patricia Ramsey's handwriting was the only sample that, quote, set off alarm bells. Then in 2001, analyst Larry Ziegler and Gideon Epstein thought that Patricia had been the one to write the note. The CBI put out a statement that there were indications that the person that wrote the note was Patricia Ramsey. So a lot of people believe that she wrote the note because she knew what happened to her daughter. But on the other hand, handwriting analysis isn't exactly hardcore proof. Handwriting analysis is a pseudoscience, which means it is not an exact science like DNA or fingerprints. It is admissible in court and it is still used as evidence, but there's a lot of debate on if it's actually a science that should be used because you can change the way in which you write.
Right.
So many believe that this is like hair samples. It's junk science.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still used today. So Patsy's handwriting did look very similar when they are placed side by side. But just because they appear to be similar does not mean it's the same person. Plenty of people have similar writing, so it's just another piece that does not fit and makes everybody go, and kind of wonder. Now, at 5:52 a.m., Patsy called 911. And right after she made this call, she began to call family and friends. This is something that many people have looked at Patsy's guilt for because the note said not to call anyone that they'd be watching. If they discover that your child's missing, who the fuck are you going to call?
Right.
I'm going to call 911 away. So it's not odd to me that she called 911.
Mm-mm.
But many people are like, oh, that's weird. I don't find that weird at all. There are a lot of very questionable things in this case, but I think a lot of them are done out of being a hysterical parent and just being human in general, because this is not a situation that you prepare yourself for. Like,
yeah, you can't.
everybody be honest with themselves. We have no idea what we would do in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
So Kimberly Arculeta, I think that's how you say it, was the 911 operator that took the Ramsey call that morning. Patsy had told her that she was not sure how long her daughter had been missing, and she was begging for police to get there, which you can listen to this call. I listened to the call more than once. Patsy sounds terrified. Just before the call hangs up, you can hear her kind of mumble to herself, "Help me, Jesus, help me, Jesus, help me."
Oh.
After this, she suddenly hung up the phone without waiting for instructions, and she never said her daughter's name. There's a lot of people that say this points to her guilt. I don't think it does. Like I said, I listened to the 911 call multiple times. She sounds hysterical to me. It does not sound fake. It's the niece, okay. She is on a house phone. The call was hung up. It didn't get disconnected, but it could have been in, I need help. Now they're on their way. Like, nowadays, you are instructed to stay on the phone until officers or whatever you need arrive. She wasn't instructed to do that. So it could have just been, I've called, so now I'm just going to wait. It could have just been she also wasn't thinking about it because her fucking 6-year-old daughter's missing and she doesn't know what to do.
Right.
So the operator didn't ask her daughter's name. Right? I don't know if that's something that you would automatically think to tell an operator, because they're not going to go out look for your kid. They're not going to put the report out. So she did not ask for JonBenet's name, so she didn't give it. Being hysterical, Patsy probably didn't think about giving it.
Mm.
She kept saying, hurry. Her concern is seemed to be just getting the police there. So I think her giving her name and like those little details, I think were just an oversight. I don't think it was done on purpose. Because she said several times in the call, hurry, please, hurry, hurry, you know?
Right.
Her hanging up could have been many things, like I said. Who knows what happened? So the call, like I said, was made at 5:52 a.m. Police arrived about 7 minutes later at 5:59 a.m. With that quick response time, it's possible that she could have heard the sirens or maybe seen the police lights, and so she hung up. I do not think this points to any kind of guilt when it comes to Patsy, but that's just me. It's weird, okay? I'm going to acknowledge that. It's weird as fuck, but she's panicking. She's running around. I don't know if she had actually woken John up at this point. So who fucking knows what's happening, okay? We weren't there. It's kind of hard to judge like these little details. I said that. Okay. Kimberly, the 911 operator, had told Dateline that she immediately thought something was wrong with this call. She said that the end of the call was strange because it ended so suddenly. She also said the phone didn't hang up all the way when she put it back up on the cradle, so it didn't fully disconnect. Like I said, okay, this is the 90s. For our younger listeners that have no idea what I'm talking about, they had a landline, or what's also known as a house phone. Okay. The cradle is the part where you put the phone back into it. For those of you that don't have a clue what I'm talking about. And I totally dated both of us. So she claimed in this Dateline episode to have heard not only Patsy and John speaking in muffled tones, but she claims to have heard a third voice that is more faint, who she believed was Burke. Burke was JonBenet's 9-year-old brother. The Ramseys all claimed that he had been asleep when this call was made. Now, you can hear muffled voices, but you can't really make out what was being said. Many experts and online sleuths have listened to this call, including myself, and they claim to hear various things within those muffled voices, but it's all pretty much the same account. There's a lot of variations, but there's very little differences amongst them. The main one that you'll see is that they hear a male voice who is thought to be John Ramsey saying angrily, "We're not speaking to you." Then they hear a female voice thought to be Patsy say, "Help me, Jesus, help me, Jesus." Then you hear a young male child say, "Well, what did you find?" Kimberly had been quoted as saying, quote, "If you hear the frantic in her voice as she's speaking to me, where she couldn't even answer my questions, it immediately stopped. It sounded like she said, okay, we've called the police, now what? And that disturbed me." Everyone go listen to it for yourself. Okay, listen to the enhanced version and the non-enhanced version. Because people have went in, they've edited and, enhanced it, removed background noises, all of that. Those things are done in like an investigative setting.
Mm-hmm.
But their technology versus like what we can access are totally different. I'm not saying that anyone doctored the call or anything like that, but that is a possibility. That has to be acknowledged. So if you're going to listen to it, listen to the original and both the edited, because you can hear the muffled voices in the original. But if you don't read the caption on the video, you can't really make out what's being said.
Right.
But if you read the caption, obviously your brain is like, that's what it says, because that's just how your brain works. If you see something, it kind of fills in those things that it's not receiving. Everyone go listen to that, form your own opinion. So she said in the panic that she believes that Patsy had put the phone down and thought she had hung it up, but she didn't. The 911 operator remained on the phone to try to hear what was being said, and she said that she heard what she thought were 3 different voices, and that gave her a bad feeling. She said to her, it sounded as though the conversation had been rehearsed. Make your own opinions, okay? It's very possible that Burke was awake and they lied, but he is a 9-year-old child, and they could have been trying to protect him from the scrutiny if they did lie about him being awake or not, because he's a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's not, but at the time he was. We all have to remember that. I feel like that's a big piece that is forgotten in all of this. He was a child at the time as well. So either way, that is not either here or there when it comes to the entire case. So Kimberly's shift had ended before she had been able to find out what happened after the call. This had actually been the last call she had taken before her shift had ended. So she obviously went home, all of this, wondering what happened. Now, when it came out that JonBenet had been found brutally murdered inside her own home, Kimberly says she was inconsolable, and that she told everyone she knew that something about the call really bothered her, even telling the authorities that they needed to listen to the call, which I feel like that is an obvious go-to in this situation, but I don't know. So investigators ended up sending the tapes to aerospace technicians, and they declared that there were, in fact, 3 different voices on the recording at the end of the call. They had been able to remove background noises, clean up the audio, and they heard 3 different voices. So they called the Boulder police, who sent Detective Melissa Hickman to aerospace to listen to the call herself. They did not tell her what they heard. They simply put her in a room and played it. And then in the end, she said that she heard what they had heard. I'm sure everyone has seen or heard what has been claimed to be heard on the end of that call. Okay? I just told you. Sure, everyone heard it before, because it's a big piece of this. But it kind of gives you a little bit of confirmation bias, because you're being told what it says before you hear it.
Right.
So, like I said, when you're missing that piece, your brain just kind of fills in those spaces. So, if you're going to listen to it, try to find one without the captions. It's hard, but they are out there. So, you do hear a clear voice of a man. You hear a clear voice that is Patsy. After Patsy talks, there is another voice that could potentially be a child, but it could have also been John, who was farther away from the phone than he was the first time. Because the farther away you get from the phone, the lighter your voice sounds. So it's possible that there wasn't 3, but could have been. Who knows? So now, I'll mention it again later. Okay, but once police and everyone had arrived at the home, Burke was in fact asleep. They go all through the entire house. Police, friends, family, Ramseys, they go through the whole house, including looking in Burke's bedroom, and he was asleep. and he slipped through all of it. So the fact that he had never woke up led a lot of people to believe that he was just kind of laying there pretending to be asleep. But that might not be the case. Again, he's 9 years old. It is not as easy for a child to pretend to be asleep as people think it is. Not only that, I have a very hard sleeper. I could walk into Logan's room, who is still asleep right now, turn his TV on, turn on his Alexa, turn the light on, all of that, and he would not wake up. Whereas Dax is the complete opposite. I turn the light on and it wakes him up.
Mm-hmm.
So he could have just been a hard sleeper. We have no idea. So there's that. Okay. Do with that with what you will. So another interesting part of this is that Patsy had told Kimberly on the 911 call that the note says SBTC victory, which is all she tells her about the note. She told police later that she had read the first line of the note, then ran looking for her daughter and got John. So a lot of people have wondered how she even knew that part if she had not yet read the entire thing. She could have given the note to John. John could have read it aloud. He could have been like, oh, what does this mean? And said it out loud. She could have glanced over while John had it and seen that bit of it. I mean, you don't have to read the entire thing to get little glimpses of it.
Right.
So it's just another one of those things that we weren't there. We can't really say how she knows. Can't say that that means she's guilty because it doesn't. So another strange thing, and this one's pretty interesting to me, is that 3 days before JonBenet was found to be missing from her bed, there was a 911 call that came from inside the Ramsey house. This call came into 911 on December 3rd at 6:48 p.m. The operator answered as normal, but no one said anything, and then the phone hung up. Police were obviously dispatched to the home, but there was not a report made. So it's weird. No report is made. A report should always be made. Okay. So we have no idea what happened. But it could have just been simply one of the kids, especially JonBenet, because she was only 6 years old, could have been playing with the phone and mistakenly called 9.
Yeah, that happens.
A lot more than people think it does.
Yeah.
So either way, there's a lot of speculation behind this call because there was no report. We have no idea what happened. Okay, so now back to the 26th. 2 police officers responded to the call within 7 minutes. Like I said, according to Foreign Faction by James Kohler, John Ramsey had been wearing a pinstripe button-up, khaki pants, and Patsy was wearing black slacks, a red sweater. She had done her hair and her makeup. A lot of shit is thrown their way with this, okay? But this is the 90s. Patsy was a beauty queen. They were a well-off family. Patsy could have gotten up for her morning routine, gotten ready, then walked downstairs, because some people do that. I'm just going to get dressed, do my shit for the day, then I'll go downstairs, get breakfast, all of that. I am not one of those people, but there's a lot of people that are like that. I have no idea if John was asleep. They have all said he was, but we don't actually know. With what he was wearing, he could have been in the middle of getting dressed because she said that she had like yelled for him or whatever. He could have heard her yelling and maybe not realized what the situation was. And so maybe he got up, started getting dressed, and that is why he was wearing what he was wearing. It's very possible. We have no idea. So I don't want to really put too much stock into that. I know it looks weird. It's odd. It's another very suspicious thing in this case, but I don't want to put a whole lot into it. Officers did find this strange. Patsy had told Rick French, one of the responding officers, that she had gone to JonBenet's bedroom, saw that she was not in there as soon as she got up. Then she said she had gone downstairs, and that's when she found the ransom note, which isn't what she had originally said. She says she went downstairs first, then went to JonBenet's room. Then Sergeant Paul Reckenbach, I think that's how you say his name, showed up on scene, and he ordered that no one use the radios just in case the kidnappers had scanners to listen to what was going on. They didn't want to risk JonBenet's safety because at this point it was just a kidnapping. From here, they search the house and they don't find anything suspicious. There's no sign of forced entry, but both Ramseys said they had locked all the doors and both said nothing was unlocked when they went downstairs. So Officer French went into the basement and he comes around the second door in the basement that led to a wine cellar, which he said had a wooden latch on it that appeared to have been locked. He said he stood in front of the door but never actually opened it and instead went back upstairs. Okay, I'm going to let you guys know now. JonBenet was behind this door the entire time.
That's insane.
Officer French later said, quote, well, this was a kidnapping. We didn't think she was in the home. And it's like, but the problem is we're going in with preconceived ideas. Like you're supposed to let the scene speak to you, not you speak for the scene. And a forensic team arrived and were starting to do the sweep. And at that time, again, everyone was assuming she was abducted and removed from the home. So they only cordoned off her bedroom, which is where she would have been taken from, obviously. And to me, this makes no sense. The kidnapper would have had to walk through the entire house, would have had to stand in the kitchen to write this note, walk to the staircase where the note was left, walk upstairs to get JonBenet, downstairs to where she was later found, and then walk through the house to leave. There would be evidence everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you only cordon off her bedroom? Makes absolutely no sense. So about this, Mark Beckner would later say, quote, as for the police department in general, I wish we would have done a better job of securing and controlling the scene on day one. We should also have separated John and Patsy and gotten full statements from that day. Isn't that protocol?
That's what I thought. I thought that's how they always did it.
Right. Like, did we just decide we're not doing that on this day? It would end up being 5 months before they actually brought the Ramseys in for an interview.
Wow.
Yeah. In my opinion, they fucked this thing up from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
They did not separate everyone in the house and get recorded statements that day. There was no evidence protection. They did no follow-up statements for 5 months. And the house was open season, basically, all except for JonBenet's bedroom. Like, you failed to do the basics on day one. And I know it's the late 90s. A lot of things have changed since then. But this is basic shit.
Right.
Like, people are walking in and out. They're walking all around. Shit's being brought into the house, out of the house. In fact, the Whites, who were the Ramseys' best friends, and the Fernies had showed up because the Ramseys had called them along with other family members. If that amount of people is not bad enough for you, Priscilla White had begun to clean the kitchen.
What?
Which blows my fucking mind. There are police officers there, and you're just letting this woman clean the fucking kitchen? Not only that, what the fuck goes through your damn head that you get a call, which Patsy did not tell them that JonBenet was missing. She told them that there was an emergency and they needed to get to the house. When they showed up is when they were told that JonBenet was missing. Okay. But at this point, you know that their 6-year-old daughter is missing. So explain to me, what the fuck goes through your head that there are police officers here in the house? A 6-year-old little girl is missing. Oh, let me just clean the kitchen really quick. The fuck is wrong with you? I do not, like, none of us are in the situation, okay? We can all say, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that. I don't feel like that's something anybody would do.
I know I wouldn't.
Right. Cleaning the kitchen is not going to be my concern if my friend's child is missing.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. Now, for Barb Fernie, this went completely different. She had called the Ramsey home and she had talked to Patsy. She had asked Patsy what she did when she found the note, and Patsy told her, quote, just handed the note to John first. But Patsy would later tell police that she had screamed for John, who, according to him, was asleep on the 3rd floor. So according to him, he wasn't getting dressed. He said he had woken up to Patsy screaming for him, went downstairs, but Burke, who was just down the hall, slept through it all. Now, again, kids can sleep through a lot of shit. So it's possible that it didn't wake him up. Just like it's possible that he heard her screaming, he could have thrown his clothes on and then went downstairs. All of those are possibilities. So we can't really say what they're wearing. Burke not waking up, Patsy calling family and friends points to their guilt. We can't say that. Because my kid goes missing, I'm going to call 911. Then I'm going to call family members. That's
Right.
just what you do in that situation. So a lot of people point to those things as saying, oh, they have to be guilty because of this. I don't really think we can do that. But that's just me. It's just really weird. It's odd that no one in the house, as far as like their friends, seemed concerned that a kidnapper had gotten in and out without being detected, because no one went and checked on Burke. Like, they obviously knew that he was there because they seen him in the room asleep, but no one checked to make sure like that he wasn't dead. Like, I don't understand. It's weird because I would be like, no, you need to get the fuck up out of bed right now. Like, I would be clinging to my child for dear life.
Right.
Which I'm not the only one that seemed concerned about that. Barb was the same way. She's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why is he still asleep? Why is no one checked on him? So it's not just me. She thought the same thing. So now the kidnappers were supposed to call between 8 and 12 that morning, right? To make arrangements to get the money. Huge window of time. Very odd window of time. Because normally it's, we will call at this time, not a window. 8 a.m. rolls around. Detective Linda Arndt, A-R-N-D-T, Arndt, I'm not sure how to say it, arrives at the scene. Patsy had told her that she had gone downstairs where she found the ransom note. She then ran upstairs and found that her 6-year-old daughter, JonBenet, was missing. Again, this is not the order she had told before. She kind of keeps flip-flopping back and forth. But to play devil's advocate, she could have just gotten things mixed up in the panic. So now that, everything's around, they're ready to do the ransom exchange by the time that the ransom note had said. So now everybody's just kind of sitting around waiting. The phones had been tapped. They were all set up in like this little sunroom that the house had. And they're waiting for the call to come in. 8 o'clock comes and goes. And the next thing they know, it's 10 o'clock and no call ever comes in. The deadline had passed and the ransom note writer never called. Now, Detective Linda later said that no one in the family had seemed to notice that the deadline had come and went and no questions were asked. I would think the worst at this point, and I would be asking all the fucking questions.
Yeah, I'd be freaked out.
I'm not really sure what that is about, and I don't really have a reason to try to be devil's advocate with that one. So now, after the phone in the room that had been set up and tapped, John Ramsey had left the room like 3 different times. When it rang for something unrelated during this time, he would run back into the room to answer it, and the detectives were like, why is he leaving the room at all? But sitting around waiting for this call to come in from the person or people that have your daughter, probably nerve-wracking. It probably would have you on pins and needles, and he may have just needed to get up and just move around. I don't know if I would be able to just sit there and stare at the phone. I feel like I probably would be freaking the fuck out and just all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Which witnesses said that John was panic stricken, that he was pacing around and he could not sit still. So I don't think it was anything like inconspicuous. Now, Officer French had made that original sweep of the house. Okay. He found nothing, like I said. But then, because they were allowing people to walk in and out wherever the fuck they wanted in this damn house, Fleet White had went down into the basement for what he reported was the first time. He would later say that he, quote, observed the window to be closed but unlatched and left in that condition. So down in the basement, there was an unlatched window, which was the middle window down there because there was 3 total, like right next to each other. He said the middle one was unlatched and open. So even though the Ramseys believed that they had locked everything on the night before, there was in fact one window that was not latched. So someone could have gotten in and out of that basement window. Now, according to foreign faction, Mr. White was the only one who, while searching the house, because they had all searched it at this point, including John Ramsey, calling JonBenet's name as he searched the house. And I guess he did this because Fleet had a daughter that was around JonBenet's age. And sometime before this had happened, his family had called 911 because the Whites had not been able to find their own daughter. She had been playing hide and seek, and so she was hiding somewhere in the house, but they couldn't find her. So they had to call 911 because they believed she had went missing. So he's thinking that maybe this is what JonBenet is doing. So he's walking around the house, calling her name, hoping that if she's hiding, she'll come out. And he's like, JonBenet, you're scaring everybody. Please come out now. Just trying to get her to come out. Every parent, I feel like every parent anyway, has gone through this with their children because for whatever reason, when kids are young, they decide we're going to play hide and seek, but I'm not going to tell anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're hiding in a cabinet or something and you're freaking out for 30 minutes because you can't find your kid. And then all of a sudden, here they come. So I get where he's coming from. It's just another part that's, I don't know, it's really weird that nobody else is like freaking out, screaming her name. But then you also have the ransom note too.
Right.
I kind of feel like the ransom note gets rid of the part that she's hiding. So Fleet White said that he went down into the basement and he saw the unlatched window, which he said he did not touch. And he said that he saw the wine cellar door with the wooden latch on it that Officer French had seen earlier. He said he opened that door and when he looked inside there, it was pitch black. He said he looked for the light when he stepped inside, but he couldn't feel where the switch was. So he just kind of squinted, trying to see, but he couldn't. So he just left. It's haunting. And I can't imagine how he felt later knowing that she was in that room the entire time. And he was that close to her.
Right.
Like, I can't. Okay, so by this point, John and Patsy had given handwriting samples in order to cross them off the list as matches to the note. Detective Jeff Kithhart, who was a handwriting and fraud expert, examined them, and he said that the only one that set off bells was Patsy. This is also the guy that found the practice note inside the kitchen. He said whoever wrote the note had clearly started it a few times in that same notebook before finishing it, which is odd. So now again, 10 a.m. comes around and there's no call. So John goes into the basement, which makes him the third person to now go into the basement. While John is down there, he mentioned that there was a broken window, and then there was one that was open. Under the broken window, there was a suitcase, and he had later said that this broken window was not from a kidnapper. Apparently, he had accidentally gotten locked out of the house a few weeks before this, and he had to break the window to get back in, and they just hadn't got it fixed yet. Following this, he went upstairs. He tells them about the broken window, and later in the crime scene video, you can see that that middle window that Fleet White had mentioned was open. I couldn't find anything with the broken window, so I'm not sure if it actually was broken, but it's referenced several times. Now, at this point during the day, Mr. White had drove Burke home because when they had finally decided, hey, maybe we should go wake the 9-year-old up and get him out of here, he was taken to Mr. White's house to stay with his family during all of this chaos. At some point during the day, Mr. White went and picked him up and brought him back home. Then around 1 p.m., Detective Linda had asked John Ramsey and Fleet, who had come back by this time, to search the entire house for anything that they had missed. Real smart, detective. Let's fucking send some civilians searching the damn house for important crime shit. That's a real fucking smart move. I read somewhere that this was just an attempt to give John Ramsey something to do because it said at this point he was just losing his mind. But it's just like, why? Like, what fucking planet is that a smart move to make? And it's probably one that she would later regret, to be honest.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. After what I tell you, I'm sure. Yeah. I feel like she probably regretted it. So she had told John and Fleet to search the house from, quote, top to bottom. And apparently John had went straight for the basement. Which odd, but okay, maybe he's thinking like, one of us start at the top, one of us start at the bottom, and then, we'll just meet in the middle. But there was no communication of that. So now this trip to the basement was the second time each of the men had been down there. Because apparently Fleet was like, nope, I'm going to go to the basement with you. Each of them once had been down alone. Now they're going down together. When they get down there, Fleet saw the broken part of the window, and he thought, I didn't see that before. But again, this basement is huge. He could have just overlooked it, Fleet had mentioned it to John. I guess John was like, oh, yeah, I broke it, when I got locked out a few weeks ago. Fleet was like, well, you should probably tell somebody about that. Could have been how the kidnapper got into the house, which he already had, but Fleet didn't know that because he wasn't there or whatever. Now, police later said it wasn't clear from either of their later interviews with them if either of the men had actually opened that middle window or not. But if you remember, Fleet had saw the window was already open. So I'm not sure how that's not clear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now back in the basement. John had opened that wooden latch on the wine cellar door. And this was when John found his daughter lying on the ground of the wine cellar with a white blanket over her torso. This part gets a little rough. Okay. I know we have the blanket statement at the very beginning in the intro, but it gets rough. So I'm going to put the 30 seconds of music here. And then after we've gone through how JonBenet was found, we'll insert another 30 seconds for anyone that does not want to hear it. You can skip forward. You'll know when to come back after that second round of music. Most people know how she was found and what happened to her, but not everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back after our little skip music. This will be one of the parts that I think is going to change some people's opinions. Because like I said, most people know how she was found, but there's some things that I don't think a lot of people know because I didn't know it. So we'll see. All right. JonBenet's arms were over her head. There was a nylon cord wrapped around them, along with around her neck and wrists. There was duct tape over her mouth. She was wearing a long white t-shirt with a silver sequin star on it and long white long johns. So what she went to bed in. The cord around her neck was wrapped so tight that John couldn't initially see it around her neck. The cord had been pulled with a garrote made from a broken paintbrush handle, which later was found to be one from Patsy's paint kit, which was just outside the wine cellar. The other part of that broken paintbrush was found inside the room as well. Do you know what a garrote is?
What?
So a garrote is something you would use so you would like have cord, on it. And that's what you use to like tighten it. So you would have each hand, you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we're back, guys. Our skippers, you can come back in now. So I'll give you a second to process that.
I'm not saying anything because I have too many opinions.
I'm sure they'll change by the time we're done.
We'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they will. Because mine did.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Which I think I mentioned that in part 2 or later or something. I have a note of that somewhere in here. Oh, yeah. I was hell bent on I know what happened. My mind's totally changed. You'll see why.
Okay.
So John Ramsey had been the one to turn the light on in the wine cellar, and Fleet White had walked in after John. So now he sees what is laying on the floor of the wine cellar. He says he took off running up the stairs for someone to call an ambulance. John Ramsey immediately pulled the tape off of JonBenet's mouth and began to untie the cords on her wrists. A lot of people point to this saying, oh, he's guilty. I think this is something every fucking parent would do. I mean, you can't fault him for that. You have your 6-year-old child. She's tied up with rope. Her face, her mouth is covered with duct tape. What the fuck are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You're not just going to leave her like that. So
Right.
You're not thinking of forensics and damaging evidence and all of these other things. You're like, get this shit off my kid. So I don't think we can say, oh, that means he's guilty. He's purposely trying to damage evidence. I don't feel like we can actually say that. So Fleet White would later say that he searched this room before and saw nothing. But remember, he couldn't find the light.
Yeah, it was pitch black.
Right. So he could have just missed that she was laying there.
Mm-hmm.
Because he didn't walk all the way into the room. He kind of like went into it, was searching for the light, but couldn't find it, and then walked out. He also swore that he heard John yell, "Oh my God," before he turned the light on. But this could have been a mistake. I mean, like, are you staring at the ceiling looking for a light? Are you watching his hand looking for the light switch? He could have gotten the time mixed up with all of the chaos in that moment. Not only that, that's fucking traumatic.
Right.
So, investigators would later test this out. They went into the room with no light, just as Fleet said he had, and they could not see the blanket inside the dark. So there's that. Do with that what you will. But we also have to remember, this is John's house. He knows what should be there and what should not be.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's eyes are different. Some people can see better in the dark than other people. So just kind of have to remember like those little things like that. So now, after taking all this stuff off of JonBenet, John Ramsey picked up his daughter and ran screaming up the stairs. During all of this, Priscilla White was in the sunroom with Patsy. She said that she had heard John and left the room to see what was going on, but Patsy did not follow her. Once John got upstairs, he placed JonBenet on the ground in the hallway and repeatedly kept saying over and over, "My angel." Then, for some weird-ass fucking reason, is Detective Linda's fucking ass decided, oh, let me just pick JonBenet up and move her into the living room where the Christmas tree is and just lay her under the Christmas tree.
Holy shit.
Girl, you should have known better.
Right.
It's just the thought process here for the detectives who have training, who know better than to do this stuff, just makes absolutely no sense to me.
Mm-mm.
So once JonBenet was moved under the tree, a blanket was placed over her, along with a Colorado Avalanche t-shirt, and a sweater was placed over her feet. Every single bit of this is so bad for the crime scene.
Yeah.
I get John Ramsey doing what he did. That's his daughter. He found her. He's in a panic. You know what I mean? It's the detectives and everyone else that are trained for this shit that I'm like, what is going through your fucking head? So now at this point, Patsy was unable to walk on her own. So she's practically carried into the room where her daughter now is. And they said that they had to hold her up because she was screaming and completely hysterical. Once she reached her daughter, she collapsed on top of her and just sobbed, screaming for Lazarus to please raise her baby from the dead. They said that she was completely inconsolable, which for anyone that does not know, Lazarus is like, it's a religious thing.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone that doesn't know, and the family was very, very religious. So that's why she yells that. Now, according to Foreign Faction that I've mentioned already, Father Holverstack, which I'm not sure if he's a minister or a father. I've seen both. I'm not sure, but he's one of them. He remembered John Ramsey saying something like, quote, "I don't think he meant to kill her because she's wrapped in a blanket." Or, quote, "She was warm and she was wrapped in a blanket." He said one of those two things. I don't know if he actually said this because no one else had heard him say it. So I don't know if he kind of mumbled it and said it to himself and the father heard it. if he said it out loud. No one else has made this statement except for the father. So there's that. I don't know how much to put into it because whoever killed her very much meant to kill her. I mean, if you look at how she was found, I don't believe this was an accident in any kind of way.
Right.
And they did not make it look like an accident very well either. So now Fleet again goes back down to the wine cellar for some fucking odd ass reason. This time he went alone. While here, he collected the duct tape, the cord, and the blanket. He then took each of these things back upstairs and handed it to the police.
What the?
Why? I don't understand why is this fucking guy, who is not a police officer, going down to collect this shit.
Right.
I told you, they fucked this thing up from day one.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely.
Okay, so now this window that was open is also odd because there was no sign of disturbance in it. Like, it was open, okay, but there was dust and dirt still on it. There was undisturbed cobwebs all around it. So if someone had climbed through the window from the outside and then left through that same window, you would think each of these things would be disturbed. So it's just another weird part of it. Now, for the window that was broken, there was a suitcase underneath it, as John had said. And it did have some scuff marks on it, but aside from that, the dust and shit was still there. They assume that the scuff marks were from when John had to break the window and climb back into the house, but they don't actually know. It's now about 1:30 on December 26th. One of the detectives had heard John Ramsey on the phone. So this is after JonBenet has been found and brought upstairs. This detective heard John on the phone booking a flight for himself to Atlanta. This detective had told him, hey, you can't leave the city or even the state. And John told the detective, well, I have a meeting that I can't miss. This is another weird part of this case because you did just find your 6-year-old murdered inside your home and you're booking a flight for a work meeting.
Right. That's fucked up.
I feel like if there was ever an excuse to get out of work, this would be it.
Yeah.
This does not shine a good light on you, my God. So right away, John and Patsy provide blood and hair samples along with Burke, and they were all spoken to briefly. The medical examiner, John Meyer, finally arrived to the home. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
At 8 p.m.
What?
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
So it took the medical examiner 7 hours to get to the Ramsey house. His report stated that he found JonBenet in the living room with a blanket and a sweater on top of her. The next morning, so December 27th, he conducted his autopsy. Her time of death was listed to be between 10 p.m. the night before and 6 a.m. the morning of December 26th. He believed her time of death was closer to 10 p.m. because of the level of decomp, but she was in the basement, all of those things. So he couldn't give a smaller window than between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. JonBenet had several injuries, and any one of them could have been her cause of death, which included strangulation and a skull fracture. So her official cause of death was listed as asphyxia by strangulation associated with cranocerebral trauma. They concluded that there was no conclusive evidence of a sexual assault, but there were questions related to whether she actually was or not. Blood was found in her underwear, like a very tiny, pinpoint amount, but it was still weird and it raised questions because it should not have been there. Closer inspection revealed that she had marks on her back and neck that looked as though they may have come from the prongs of a stun gun.
Oh, shit.
It was noted several times that the cord around her wrists were tied very loosely, like they didn't even leave marks on her skin. They were so loose. But the cord around her neck was a different story. This cord was so deep that it made a brutal indentation into her skin. There was notable petechial hemorrhages in her eyes, which means that she was alive when she was garroted.
That's so sad.
It's beyond horrific. Hopefully, the blow to her head left her unconscious, so that way she at least wasn't aware of what was going on. There was a bruise on the front of her throat, which they found strange. It was triangular and about the size of a quarter. Several sources stated that analysts believe that her shirt may have like gotten caught up like in a knot, and maybe that's where it had come from, pushing into her throat, causing the bruise. But they don't actually know. They found a red inked line drawing in the form of a heart on the inside of her left palm. Like as if she had taken, like as if, like kids do, she had taken a red pen and drew a heart.
Oh, yeah.
On the palm of her hand, which just breaks my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So now that is a trigger warning. I'm going to put another round of our skip elevator music in here. Everybody knows what to do with that. Okay. So what they discovered through autopsy was that JonBenet had most likely been sexually assaulted with the handle of the paintbrush at the time of or shortly after her death.
What the fuck?
They also found possible evidence to prove that she had been assaulted more times than that before the night of her murder.
That's sick.
Yeah. I told you, there's a lot in this case that is not as well known. Okay. Our skippers can come back now. So this, what I just told you, was believed to have taken place within weeks to even months before she was killed. The pediatrician, though, says that they never found anything amiss in the last 3 or so years that she had seen her, and she'd seen her like 30 some times in that time frame, and they had never seen anything to raise questions or that made them worry about her safety. So it would have had to have been something that was new.
Mm-hmm.
So now going back to the cords for a minute, these were wrapped around a homemade garrote, which was believed to be from a new roll. Then it was wrapped around her neck. So they knew this because you know how like when you get a new cord of rope, the end of it looks like it was like melted or like it has glue on it.
Mm-hmm.
So this cord had that, which told them this was a brand new cord of rope. So this led them to believe that the garrote was made first, then the cord was wrapped around her neck, and then her wrists, which her wrist was the part that was staged. This would later explain why they were so loose, because there was no reason for them to be tight. They also found mucus that came from JonBenet's nose and then ran down her face to her nose, which this will happen during strangulation, and it can also happen because of blunt force trauma to the head. They noted that the outlines of the tape were on top of this mucus trail, which means the tape was placed on her mouth when she was at the very least unconscious, but she was most likely already dead at the time that the tape was placed on her. This is shown to most likely because, according to Foreign Faction, the tape had an imprint of JonBenet's lips on the sticky side, and it was a perfect imprint. So the imprint of her mouth, it wasn't smudged or anything like that, as if she had been crying or yelling, which again points to this part being staged.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they did manage to find DNA from her underwear and on the waistband of her long johns. But, are you ready for your theory to change?
Yeah. We'll see if it does.
This DNA did not match any of the Ramsey family members.
That shocked me.
So at this point, Boulder Police Chief Tom Kobe had told the public that there was no threat and that this was an isolated incident. Okay, so you're saying despite the fact that there was a little girl brutally murdered inside her home, and you have absolutely no idea who did it, but there's no danger to the public.
Right.
Okay, I don't have much confidence in your statement, sir.
Right.
So there's that. So as a side note here, because I'll get into it in part 2 along with several other things that I'm sure everyone is waiting for me to talk about. By this point, the Ramseys had been cleared by the DNA. They had left the state and went to Georgia, which a lot of people find odd. I think they did it to get away from all this shit. You know, all the publicity, all of the scrutiny and that cloud of doubt that loomed over them. I think that's why they went to Georgia. I can't really say that I blame them, but like I said, DNA cleared them. So they were able to do what they wanted to do. But it's kind of weird because they hired a huge team of lawyers and a PR firm.
Wow.
So that's weird. I don't really know how much that points to anyone's guilt or how much them knowing anything, okay? Because you should always get a lawyer when police are involved.
Mm-hmm.
Always. To protect yourself. I'm not sure why they had a PR firm, but Patsy was a well-known beauty queen. John was a well-known man himself. Maybe that's why. I'm not really sure. But it's weird. And that's where we're going to end part 1. Part 2, we'll cover in more detail what I just told you about the family. We'll talk about some of the big things that most people already know, such as the pineapple and the flashlight. We'll get into some of the theories that surround the case, the suspects, you know, and all those nitty-gritty details. Like I said, we're not really going to go into detail with our own opinions on what we think happened or who we think are responsible. So we're just going to give you the facts, let you decide what you think on your own. But the only opinion I'm going to give in this episode, I do not think this was a kidnapping in any way. I don't think whoever did it planned to kidnap JonBenet because they would have removed her from the house.
Mm-hmm.
They would have had the ransom note prepared ahead of time. This was all staged to cover up the fact that they had killed her because they had to think fast. And I think when they saw the bank statement, they just wrote down that number.
Right.
The garrote and ropes were done as an afterthought to hide the truth behind what had happened to her. I think she was hit in the head and they realized that she hit her head a little too hard and this just kind of unfolded from there. As for who I think did it, I will not be publicly sharing that because I don't want to get sued or canceled.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I'm trying not to say my opinion.
There's a lot more in part 2 that you'll see why my opinion that we have discussed before, why my opinion is different now. But yep, we're going to end it with the family was cleared, DNA, no suspects. That's it. That's all I got for part 1.
Alrighty.
All right, you got anything else?
Not that I can share.
Not Okay, well, next Monday, part 2 comes out, guys. I feel like Mandy, yours, and a lot of other people's opinions will change.
We'll see.
Yep, so come back next Monday for that part 2. We'll dive into all that, discuss all those things. I have some pictures this episode. I'm sure they're pictures everybody's probably already seen, but those will be on Facebook. That link's in the description. As always, give us a rate, review. Make sure you're subscribed so you can get notifications when these new episodes drop. If you want to share your thoughts so far with part 1, drop a comment on this episode or send us an email. That is also in the episode description. Let us know your thoughts so far on part 1, and then we'll see how those change after we do part 2.
Right.
And that's all I have for this one. So we hope you keep listening and remember to
watch for monsters
and don't kill people. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.